Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son talk all things Bears, from Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns. I'm your host, Dylan Weaver, and I'm joined here with my dad. How you doing, Dad?
Doing great, Dill. How about you? What they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I hope the noise is so loud out there this week that it's national news. The Bears come out 2-2. What do you say, Dill?
Yeah, no, good game this week. Chance for the Bears to get back to 500 before they head into that bye week. And looking at the season before the season started, I didn't really like the early bye week, but seeing with all the injuries we're dealing with, it's actually probably a good thing we got the bye week this early. And now it's about just finding a way to win this game, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Find a way to win, get to 500, and heal everyone up for the bye, and hopefully get all the starters back. Obviously, outside of Jalen Johnson, but it looks like we're going to be, another week without a lot of starters. I
It's
wouldn't
like
be,
a wait list at a fancy restaurant on a Friday night, as long as that injury report is.
yeah, it is definitely bad, but excited for the matchup. And like you were saying, could be loud there. It looks like the Bears fans are taking over Allegiant Stadium. Um, it's one of those stadiums in the NFL. Obviously, I think a lot of it has to do with Vegas. No matter what, of whatever fan you are of what team, Vegas is a perfect spot to go to an away game. You got the casinos, you got the city life out there, and it's just a great game to go to. But I've already been seeing reports from, Ticketmaster people that it's pretty 50-50 split. Um, wouldn't be surprised if it's a pretty neutral game as far as the fan bases go, loud on both sides of the ball. So definitely going to be excited. We need the Bears fans to show out. This is a huge game, and I know we were supposed to be at this game, but we have these other two people in our family that like to lollygag and kick their feet up, but it'll still be good to watch the game and cheer them on. Um, but yeah, excited for the game nonetheless.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. You're right on that report. It's looking to be 50-60% Bears fans out there, which, that neutralizes the home field advantage for the Raiders. So that's a +1 in the column for the Bears and the Bears fans, so that will be good. And then it's Vegas, right? Who doesn't want to go to Vegas? Great city, a lot of fun, especially for a short weekend. Saw one of my good friends this morning posting he was getting on the plane to head out there himself. So uh, much luck to all them, whether it's with the Bears game, or at the craps table. But hope they all have fun. We'll make do and make the best out of it watching it here from the house.
Yeah, no. But let's hop into it. I kind of just heated up with the injuries. Let's just go over the injury report for the Bears. It's pretty brutal. Usually, there's people on the Friday injury report. Everyone's usually pretty much questionable, even if they're going to be out. However, the Bears have already ruled three people out, and that's what TJ Edwards still doing with that hamstring injury. He's going to be out. Grady Jarrett with the knee injury didn't practice all week. He will be out. And Darnell Wright, our right tackle, who would be going against Max Crosby, is also out. And then on the questionable side, which I'm going to be honest, I think maybe one of these guys is playing. Kyler Gordon was limited on Friday, but he's questionable. He hasn't practiced in over a month, and his first practice back was limited. He's not going to play. Colston Loveland was dealing with that hip injury from last week's game. He didn't practice all week until Friday as well. He's questionable. And then DeAndre Swift is the one player who I do think will be playing. He was limited all week, and he's just questionable. He was dealing with a hip injury as well. Um, and DeAndre Swift's the only person I think that's actually going to play out of those guys that are questionable. Both Colston Loveland and Kyler Gordon didn't practice until Friday, and they were limited. So they weren't really, every week, Ben Johnson and OC, they go through their plays that they could potentially run in the game. And it starts with, Tuesday, they walk them through. Wednesday, they kind of ramp it up a little bit. They're in pads. doing a little bit of live, just no tackling. And then Friday's kind of where you do those third down and red zone plays that you have in mind and run those and execution wise. So I just don't see Kyler Gordon or Colston Loveland playing. And I as much as I want to see Kyler Gordon playing, as much as he could be a big factor in this week for shutting down Ashton Genty, it's smart. We got the bye week. Find a way to win this game and let everyone heal up. So when we head to Washington for that revenge game in week 6, we're ready to go full strength for the most part, and we have the rest of the season to monitor injuries and get everyone healthy. But I mean, Darnell Wright is the one that stands out for me. TJ Edwards, we've been without him. And Noah Sewell has done a good job hopping in, especially in the run game. Now, the passing game is where he kind of falls behind a little bit. And I mean, he's going to have a tall task. Those linebackers are usually over those tight ends, and they got a tight end over there named Brock Bowers, who is in his second year and has been lighting the league up. And with Darnell Wright, like I said, we're going to get to see the Canadian Eagle in full effect. We got to see him for about 10 to 12 snaps last week against the Cowboys when Darnell Wright did injure that elbow. He obviously later on came back into the game, but Theo Benedet did get some snaps there. I will say, since Darnell Wright did not practice all week, it is good that Theo Benedet was the one getting all those reps in there. So he's not like it's a last minute thing. Hey, Darnell Wright can't go. You're in there. Like, Theo Benedict's been practicing all week with the offense. And what a great story. Your first NFL start, you're going out there against Max Crosby. I mean, you couldn't ask for a taller task. I mean, it's going to be definitely interesting, but the injuries, again, early in the season have been hurting us early on.
Yeah, I would say, don't be a Debbie Downer just yet. Both teams are 1-2, right? We've seen what our team has done since week 1 with these injury reports, where we're fearful of what the defense is. Granted, we got a offensive lineman on there, but we've been questioning his play a little bit all year long anyway. So we can see what Benedict does, especially since he did come in during that Cowboys game and he was serviceable, right? We still had 0 sacks from that side when he came in, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then on the other side of the ball, you got to look their injury report. They have a few people on there as well. Brock Bowers is, he's playing, but he's limited participant in practice during the week. He's dealing with a knee injury out there. You got the cornerback who's, I believe he's questionable as well. So we definitely have some opportunity there where we can match up, and we've been down this road before through weeks 1, 2, and 3 with the injury report, and kind of nervous about who's going to be on the field and who's not. I think last week we had 5 or 6 starters that weren't playing,
5 people out that were
5 people out.
starters. Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay. I think the one thing we do got to worry about, although Tyreek Stevenson played a great game last week. And you look at some of the other supporting cast there in that secondary with the DBs and the cornerbacks. Geno Smith's ranked #1 in the league right now with passes over 20 yards downfield. So that could be an opportunity. And then you mentioned Ashton Genty. Let's be honest. He hasn't got rolling yet in the NFL. Nothing like he was in his college days. So we'll have to see what that defensive line for us can do, because it would be bad coming out of Vegas, and this is the game that got Genty rolling. That would say a lot, especially since I know you're a huge fan of Ashton Genty.
No, I'm
Uh,
not I mean,
I
okay,
know.
you're
That's
saying
why I
that
was giggling.
sarcastically. Yeah.
The
Yeah, I was
sarcasm
about to
wasn't coming
say,
through
and
right.
I just have a bad feeling I'm going to eat my words this weekend, because the Bears defense, like you said, although we've been out without key starters, the run defense has looked absolutely terrible. I mean, I will say the benefit of it is the Raiders O-line has been struggling really bad. Um, there's a stat, I think 101% of Ashton Genty's yards are after contact, which means he's getting hit in the backfield continuously, and all the yardage he is getting is from yards after contact. So we gotta slow him down. It's this D line's gotta wake up. But with I will say with Grady Jarrett being out, I do think we're going to get to see a lot of Andrew Billings in there. And that was one thing he was really good at last year. Him and Shervon Dexter, they would stuff that middle wide open and run plays. It's just really shocking to see because our run defense actually last year wasn't bad at all. It did taper off towards the end of the year, but that was probably due to the culture and just the locker room in general after losing 10 games in a row. But the D-line's got to play a good game this week. Ash, you do not want him to get going because he when he is hot, he is a good running back. But the one that scares me, like I said, is the Darnell Wright one. And it's just I do wish Darnell Wright was here because I don't know if you remember his rookie year 2 years ago. He actually had a similar injury in his shoulder where he really couldn't use one of his arms. And he had to go guard. Credit to Darnell Wright in his rookie year. He played and said he was good, and he blocked Max Crosby with one arm the whole game and didn't give up a single sack. So I just feel like this matchup, Darnell Wright has already been used to it. He clearly has something figured out going against Max Crosby where, he's able to contain him as dangerous as a player as he is. And now we don't have him this week. But I will say Theo Benedet turned a lot of heads in training camp and especially in the preseason and especially with the fan base. I know we were shocked. We're like, wait, Theo Benedet is all of a sudden the backup, not Ozzie Trapillo, which, not another good look on Ryan Poles, but at the same time, an undrafted free agent guy played his college football in Canada. I mean, it's a great story and he's going to have a tall task. And that's what I'm going to be watching the first couple drives. As much as I love watching the ball and Caleb and seeing where the ball's going, I'm going to be looking right at that bottom right of the screen and looking at that matchup and seeing how it's going. Obviously, they're going to send chip help his way. Tight ends off the line are going to bump him to help him out and slow down Crosby. But at the same time, the guy is an electric player nonetheless, and he's up for a tall task. But that's the one that definitely worries me. Colston Loveland, yeah, it sucks, but I'll just be honest. So far, Colston Loveland hasn't been that much involved in whether that's a rookie and the playbook just I don't know. It's weird because he had a great training camp and all of a sudden in the season it's not really translating.
I'm
But
just going to say one thing on that. Tyler Warren looks to be involved.
well, yeah, I mean, he looks to be involved, but at the same time, the Colts are on. It's shocking, but the Colts are on fire. They're putting up 30 points a game. They're having good games. I feel like Colston Loveland. It's weird because it's like we said in training camp, it was him and Olamide Zaccheaus, and in these games, to be honest, it's been the opposite. It's been Rome Odunze for the most part. He gets all the spotlight. DJ Moore obviously has his catches in the game, but in that receiving room, it's been a lot of Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, where Colston Loveland and Olamide Zaccheaus were the training camp stars. Now that also could, be due to going against the Bears defense, which maybe could tell you, which makes sense with what I was saying with the linebackers and having, Brock Bowers could have a really good game here. If you're just thinking from a Bears perspective of,
Don't
Colston.
forget, we have the NFC Offensive Player of the Week
Oh, I
and
know.
the FedEx Player of the Week. We got Caleb. We're going to be okay.
No, I do agree. And that's why I'm saying Colston Loveland, honestly, Cole Kmet's been the one that's outshined him, which it's shocking, but it's not shocking. Cole Kmet's been here for a while. He's a viable receiving option in this offense and has been in other offenses as well with us. So that's why that one doesn't scare me too much. We still got Cole Kmet out there. And then DeAndre Swift, like I said, he was limited all week, but he's obviously going to be playing. They're probably just making sure he's ready to go because we finally got to see a taste of that run game last week where it was kind of the 1-2 punch, especially that one drive with Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. And I expect we're going to get to see, more of that this week. But like you were just saying with Caleb, we got Caleb. the Raiders' run D is actually not that bad. It's their passing defense that is terrible. So I feel like we could see another huge week out of Caleb, and he can pick up right where he left off. It
If
should,
Marcus Mariota can look like an all-star Heisman Trophy winner that he was from Oregon, I think Caleb's gonna be okay.
yeah. Well, I will say on that, that's the anomaly though, because the Raiders' run defense has been good through the first 2 weeks, and then last week it wasn't really Marcus Mariota. It was the Commanders' running backs and rushing game that ran all over their defense. I mean, they're breaking 60-yard rushing touchdowns, 50-yard rushing touchdowns. Marcus Mariota had like a 50-yard run and then fumbled the ball in the red zone. But their passing defense has been the part where it's been kind of wishy-washy. And that's where I think Caleb can have a good game. And like I said, I said it before the season started. I love our weapons this year. Rome Odunze is really growing into, his second year in the NFL. And, why don't we talk about this real quick? I thought it was funny. I did see something about Shane Waldron,
Oh
and I just
no.
want to go back and just look at something. I don't know if you remember when we hired Shane Waldron, JSN was on a podcast and got asked, what can Bears fans expect? And he goes, is this live? Like, are we recording now? Like, he wanted to say something like bad, but then he found out I was on air and he completely walked everything back. Right there, you had a bad sign of it. Then he comes to Chicago and Keenan Allen looks terrible. And Rome Odunze doesn't get any production being a top 10 pick. Now Keenan Allen's in the Chargers, and he looks like Keenan Allen all over again. And
And
now guess where
BTJ.
I was about to say, and guess where Shane Waldron's at now? He's in Jacksonville, and guess who had a great rookie year and now looks terrible? Brian Thomas Jr. So wherever Shane Waldron goes, it seems like these receivers are cursed, and it's just not working out. But I just thought it was interesting. I saw it, and it could just be a coincidence, but when it starts to translate from three different teams, I think that's where you're in a lot of trouble, and eyes can start get pointed in your direction. But like I said, I love our weapons. Ben Johnson is a great play caller. He finds ways to get everyone open. We saw it last week with 8 different receivers catching the football. Luther Burden, we finally got to see him have some flash plays in a game, and I feel like we're going to get to see more. They've been saying they've been slowly adding packages for Luther Burden for these games, and I only can imagine that's going to continue to go up as the season goes on, especially with the game like last week. You saw he's that player they talk about where one play could be gone for a 70-yard touchdown, and there it was. I mean, I do think it is going to come down to Caleb and how good he plays, but I have full confidence in him. This is another defense that isn't really all that. They're probably right in the middle of the pack when you're talking about rushing and passing. So it should be a game where Caleb, can sit there and make plays, but it also comes down to that pass protection, which last week we got to see really good signs of that. And it's going to have to translate into this week.
Yeah. Even Vegas thinks this game's a coin flip, basically, with who's gonna win with the 1.5 spread. So you're really looking 50-50. But I think the intangible in all this will be Caleb and Rome, and that chemistry that they continue to build going forward. And then, as you mentioned, Luther Burden coming in into the mix even more. So, and I know having Colston out of the game is never good, right? But I almost wonder sometimes if we have too many weapons and it makes too many decisions happens. If we kind of narrow down between a good tight end and a couple great receivers, that makes the job of Caleb even harder when he's looking for the ball and getting it out of there quicker. So I think we got a good shot.
Yeah, and I do think, like you said, there is a lot of weapons, and that could be part of the production of Colston Loveland, not really getting the ball as much. I will say last week we did see him get targeted a lot more.
Mhm.
Caleb, where he did have some of his bad throws were kind of in Loveland's direction, especially that first play of the game. He ran that outpost route to the sidelines, and Caleb overthrew him just a little bit. But we still got to see him. He had that one like 35-yard catch. It was that same drive. I think they went back to him a couple plays later, and that's where he had that big explosive catch. And like I said, like you said, there is a lot of weapons to feed on this team. And I'm sure Ben Johnson does a great job throughout the week, letting them know, hey, we're going to get you the ball. You're going to have your plays, but everyone needs to do their job when the play's not going to you, and you'll get your plays when they come. And it's been cool to see. I think for the most part, the receivers have been or the receiving room in general, you haven't really seen any attitude problems, I would say, as far as not getting the ball. I mean, there is some other comments I could make, but I'll just leave it for now. But
Let's
I
get
just,
to the
I
bye
just,
week.
I just want to see DJ's more body language, be a little bit better. It does really make me mad watching a game, and especially last week, especially you haven't won a game all season yet. You're 0-2, and the Bears are looking good, and DJ Moore's catching first down passes, and his teammates are jumping on him. He's just walking back. Like, I'm sorry, man. You got to get a little bit more energy for me. I mean, it doesn't look, and I get it. He is kind of one of those players that has really weird emotions. Even his press conferences, he's like so laid back and chill. But dude, let's see some hype when you get a first down or even the touchdown catch. Zacchaeus is coming to jump on you, and you're just standing there. Like, I'm
He
not going to
could,
harp on it too much because,
yeah,
like
he
I
could
said,
just be an introvert though.
it could just be his personality. But at the same time, when you get those plays, that's how you shift energy and you feed off of it. But when you're just so, like, I don't know what the word is for it, but when you're just blank face and you're like, it is what it is. I mean, your teammates are trying to hype you up, and you should be hyping them up after you make a play. It's infectious. Like, people feed off of that stuff, and I just like to see a little bit more out of that personally from him. But other than that, this offense, I think, like I said, before the season started with my predictions about this offense around week 3 and week 4 was going to start, hitting full speed, and it couldn't have come at a better time, and we're going to need it to come at a great time this week, especially with the injuries we're dealing with.
No Uno reverse card this week.
Oh no, I'm doing the Uno reverse again. I'm picking the Bears to lose. I'm keeping the same juju I got on the shirt last week that I wore during the game. I mean, I'm keeping it all the same. And if the Bears, knock on wood, if the Bears actually do lose, then yeah, we can go back to just being normal and my conspiracy theories in my head of how the good juju works. But for now, we're going to keep it rolling the same way because the Bears could use any little bit of juju they can get. But I did want to talk to, it was, we could talk a little bit about before we hop into our predictions, because I think we kind of touched on some of the key players from both sides of the ball with
What
the
about Trey
Raiders.
Walker though? We didn't talk about Trey.
It's not Trey Walker, it's Trey
Oh,
Tucker.
Trey Tucker.
Yeah.
I knew there was an in there.
Yeah, he's a good slot receiver, and that's another reason why having Kyler Gordon back would have been great this week because he's kind of been him and Jacoby Myers have been, their two guys that they can rely on. Trey Tucker's like he's a little bit of a Wan'Dale Robinson from New York. He's that slot receiver. It's a lot of short and intermediate passes they throw to him, but he's fast, and if you're not hip to hip with him, he can make you pay for it. So it's going to be a tall task for the defense. But as far as, they've had to play Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, and then last week, CeeDee Lamb for a quarter and George Pickens. This is definitely on the easier side as far as what they've seen so far. I will say, though, too, DeAndre Thornton, do not forget about him. I know a lot about him, obviously, because I'm out here in Tennessee and I'm a huge Tennessee fan, but he played college football here and he absolutely has take the top off speed, and he's their deep shot. And we cannot lose him because he will make you pay. He's going to run a lot of deeper routes to take the top off of a defense. And we got to make sure we have eyes on him at all times because him and Geno Smith have had a connection pretty early. But I think the main keys, like Freddie talked about, is Brock Bowers, obviously, and do not let Ashton Genty have his breakout game in the NFL because so far he's kind of been pretty average for how hyped he was coming into the season. And let's keep it that way. if you want to prove me wrong later, Ashton Genty, you're more than welcome, but let's not let it start this week. Um, I'm excited, but I wanted to talk a little bit too about, this week with the coaches talking about each other typically in matchups during the pressers early in the week. You know, for example, the Chicago media asked Ben Johnson a lot about the Raiders team, the coaching staff, what he's seen on tape getting ready for the game, and they do the vice versa with Pete Carroll. And I just thought it was pretty cool. I didn't really remember this, but Pete Carroll was one of our top options if we didn't get Ben Johnson. I think those top options were obviously Ben Johnson and then Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy, and obviously Vrabel, but I don't think we ever even got to speak to Vrabel. But Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy both did interview for the job as well. And it was just kind of cool to hear Pete Carroll talk about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and how it's looked so far. He had a lot of praise for Caleb and Ben Johnson. He talked about our offense kind of looking like, the Ben Johnson offense last week. And that's probably the biggest thing we're going to need to see this week. Last week, it was against a terrible Cowboys defense. We need to see it continue this week. It can take a dip. Obviously, it might not be 300 yards, but let's not see the fall off like we saw in week 1 and 2, where the offense is good for a quarter or a half. Let's continue to see that offense kind of excel throughout a whole game. Obviously, you're not going to have scoring drives every drive, but let's see it where for the majority of the part, the offense looks like it's clicking. But I just
Do you know
thought it
what
was
other
really cool.
do you know what other connection that Pete Carroll and Caleb Williams have?
Um, I don't.
Pete Carroll used to coach USC.
When he was there?
No, not when he was there.
Oh, I was
But it's
about to
the
say.
USC connection. No, not
Oh,
when he
I
was
was like
there.
about to say. I'm like, I thought he's been out of
Probably
coaching
before
for a
you were
little bit.
born.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I just thought it was super cool. Um, obviously, obviously, it was pretty obvious the Bears wanted Ben Johnson. It was just up to if Ben Johnson wanted the Bears. But Pete, I would have totally. I mean, obviously, if we didn't get Ben Johnson, I would have been okay with Pete Carroll or Mike McCarthy. They're both two good coaches um, who are established in the league and they know what it looks like and how it's supposed to be. But it'll definitely be cool to see them play against each other. And it's also this week it's just going to be really cool to see Genty against the Bears because there was a lot of Bears fans heavy on if he fell to us drafting him. And I think Ben Johnson made that pretty clear in some of his press conferences this week with the praise he had for Genty. Where I do feel like if he did fall to us, I do think Genty would have been on this team. Um, and, considering our running backs, it definitely would have helped because so far the running backs, it's not off to a great start. Um, I just saw another stat after week 3, DeAndre Swift's averaging 1.67 yards a carry. I mean, we got to get it figured out because eventually, too, Caleb is a great quarterback, but when you come one dimensional and you're only doing one thing and you don't have a threat in the run game, it gets really hard to exceed as an offense and play that quarterback position. So we definitely need to see this running game get started. Somehow we need a spark. And I think Ben Johnson did a lot of that last week with giving like we talked about. I think there was 6 different people that got rushing attempts last week, whether that was Caleb, DJ Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus, Luther Burden, and then obviously the 2 running backs. I think he's going to have to mesh that in again or probably throughout the season of all these different people touching the ball because it's all these different looks because when it's a pretty standard run for the most part they're not really going anywhere, especially the ones in between the tackles where you're running that halfback dive right up the middle. We're just getting clobbered and not being able to get the tough yards after contact. But I think we can hop into our predictions if you want to do that. I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about before we get into that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that Ben Johnson speech after the game because I mean that gave me goosebumps watching that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I do want to talk about one thing though, the locker room where Caleb gives Ben Johnson the ball and he gives his little rah rah there at the end. And all the people in the media this week are like, I've never heard that before. That's like Pee-wee football kind of
Yeah.
pump up speech. So I don't know where everyone's been for the last 30 years, but that one's been around for a while.
Well, and it's all like a lot of people too are like, wow, Caleb actually gave the game ball to the head coach. Like, first off, I don't play in the NFL. We don't play in the NFL. It's pretty obvious. It's your head coach's first win. You give him the game ball. That's how you see it from program to program. They give these head coaches a game ball. It's as much as it's a win for the team, it's a win for the head coach too, especially the first one as his head
Mhm.
coaching. He's going to remember this. And I mean, it is a pretty memorable game. The offense was clicking. I'm sure he's going to remember it. But
Especially after the greetings he got the week before in Detroit.
yeah,
He needed a game ball.
yeah, no, for sure. And like you said, it's the media. It's just I don't want to get too I don't want to get political, but it's like the media we see outside of sports. It's you see all these reports, and then you actually see what's happening, and it's two different things. And Caleb's a perfect example of that. The media continues to try and tear him down and paint this narrative about him, and I've yet to see any diva like trait that they called him coming out of the draft. He's a diva. He goes against the media. Like I don't see anything like that. I mean, can you think of an example where he's kind of? I know you have some of your things with him, though. Sometimes with an undershirt he's wearing or sunglasses on the sideline, but for real
It's
though,
like how you
honestly,
feel
he's
about
not.
DJ Moore's emotions. That's how I
Yeah,
feel about Caleb and some of the stuff he does.
yeah, but I mean, for the most part, as far as handling the media, being a player, there's nothing where you've seen him be a diva or go against, and be some outlier just to because it's Caleb Williams. No, he's about as team player as it gets. And another example of that is Ben Johnson said in his press conference this week, he went up and announced Caleb Williams winning NFC Player of the Week in front of the team. And Caleb just, thank you, pretty stoic about it is the exact description Ben Johnson said, where he was just straight faced and he said, let's go. We got a game this week. I mean, that is as far as diva as it gets. The guy didn't even care about a NFC Player of the Week, his first one in the NFL, by the way. And he said, you know what? We got the Raiders this week. We need to find a way to get to 500. That's what I'm focused on. I don't care about this award right now. We got a game to worry about. And that's all you could ask from a quarterback. And to me, it just looks like he's got a lot more that he really wants to prove. He don't care about these weekly awards. He wants to make the playoffs. He wants to be the Bears' first 4,000-yard passer. He wants to win a Super Bowl here. And I couldn't be happier. I'm full in on Caleb Williams. I have been since we drafted him. In the beginning, I was really hesitant, just with all the crazy plays he was making in college, would it translate? And last year I loved it, but this year we're not seeing as many crazy plays. We're actually seeing him play in structure, and that's due to Ben Johnson. And I couldn't be happier. I think the future is really bright for the Bears, and it's going to be fun.
How did you feel after the Lions game?
I mean, I was mad for sure, but I wasn't mad at Caleb. I was just
No,
mad
but
that we got 52 points hung on our head.
you were down in the dumps, right? All week long. Work was tough for you that Monday morning.
Oh, it was getting brutal. I had to get off of social media for a couple of days because it was just starting to get to me. I'm like,
And then
it's
how
just
did you feel after last week's
oh,
game against the
it's like a
Cowboys?
roller coaster, man. It's like
DJ
all up and down and up and down.
DJ
But
Moore's trying to teach you lessons. Just stay in the middle. Don't
yeah,
let the highs get you too high. Don't let the lows get you too low.
you're probably right about that, honestly, too. Like you got to stay pretty even keeled. And I think we touched on it a lot last week in our post game show. It's just,
Bottle it up.
as much as we want the playoffs and we want to see this team in the playoffs, at the end of the day, this first year should just be about Caleb's growth. And we're seeing that so far. Let's just see that the whole season. And it will be honestly a winning season in my mind because like we said, what we're seeing this year is what we should have saw last year, but we didn't have the coaches in place to fully grasp Caleb because this year should be the year where we see the breakout and the Bears are seriously a playoff contender with Ben Johnson, but we didn't get that last year. We had a terrible coaching staff here where there's 3 different OCs in Caleb's rookie year. So that's really just that really was a year of just, yeah, you're playing out there, but you're not really learning anything and getting taught the right things. And now they're finally in place for him, and we're starting to see it. I mean, it's pretty night and day. And a little, sneak peek for our viewers next week. We are going to do a little Ben Johnson effect show, I like to call it, in the middle of the week sometime, probably around Wednesday or Thursday. We'll drop that episode. But I've been doing a lot of comparing from last year's first 4 games. And then after this week, I'm comparing it. And already it's night and day. The stats, they will blow your mind. But it is Ben Johnson on full display. And this is the reason he was the number 1 sought after head coach going into the offseason this year. And we just couldn't be happier that he's here. But yeah, let's hop into the predictions though. Let's get to it.
And we'll have you go first this week.
Yep. As you know, I don't even need to say a score. I got the Bears losing. It's going to be a tight one. And in reality, the Bears are actually going to win, but it's the reverse juju. I'll go with 2. I'll do our MVPs. The offense, man. I think the passing game is definitely going to be the part that wins us this game. Like I said, their passing defense has been struggling. I want to say maybe maybe me talking about DJ Moore. This is going to be DJ's Moore game this week. I wouldn't mind to see it. Let's see DJ Moore have a big game. Rome Odunze can still have his 70 to 80 yards, but I think DJ's in for his first 100-yard plus receiving game in this year with Ben Johnson. I think we can definitely see that this week, because especially with Rome continuing week after week to kind of have these touchdown, these games that he should be having as a number 9 overall pick, defenses are going to start doubling him and honing in on him a lot more. And it's going to relieve pressure for DJ Moore, where he's going to start getting a lot of these balls as well. So I think this is going to be a game for DJ Moore. It would make me pretty excited, and let's see that excitement in his face as well. On the defensive side, I'm going to go with a risky one here. I'm going to go with Big Billings in the middle, shutting down that run game and absolutely annihilating Genty and making this Raiders offense pretty one-dimensional like they have so far this season. I just think, as much as, Geno Smith's been throwing the ball around and having all these passing yards, I think that's just due to them not having a run game, and it's been pretty lackluster. I think Genty's the key to shutting this team down, just containing him, not letting him. He's going to have some plays where he breaks him off for 10, 12 yards, 15 yards, but let's not give up 50-yard touchdowns. Let's limit it. And I think Big Billings is going to play a big factor this week, especially with Grady Jarrett being out. And then for Caleb Williams, his stat line, I got another 250-plus game from him, 270-yard game from him. Let's keep him on pace for that 4,000-yard season. But this passing defense has been struggling, and especially with our run game, kind of continuing to try to find their footing. I feel like Caleb's going to have another good game in order to come out with the win. So I got Caleb. I'll say over 275. I think he's going to have another big game. We saw the explosive plays on full display last week, and I only think that's the beginning. For his completion percentage, Ben Johnson set that bar high at 70%. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like he might hit 70% a couple of the games, but I'm going to have him right around the 65%. I think that's probably where he's going to hang around. Especially with the explosive plays too. It's just kind of hard to see that 70% completion when you're launching the ball all over the place. But I think he'll be right around 65%. I'm going to give Caleb I'm going to give him 3 touchdowns in this game. It's 275 plus yards.
Okay. 28-21, Bears win.
Okay.
Caleb Williams, 3 touchdowns. He's going to be 18 for 25, 26. I go with the 255 yards this week. I'm with you on the completion percent. That 70 is tough. So I'll take it around the 60, whatever that works out to, with the 18 for 26. And then I'm going to go with the unsung hero on the offensive line as my offensive player of the week with the Canadian Eagle. He is
Yes,
going to
sir.
show the league. This is his breakout game, right? First game he gets to start in, going against Max Crosby, and I think he's going to put on a good showing where he's going to keep the quarterback upright and do his job, and we're going to be really, really happy about it. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I really want to stay on the Tyreek Stevenson train, and that's where my other 7 points come in. Because Caleb's going to throw for 3, but the defense is going to get it to pick 6. So Tyreek Stevenson, defensive MVP for my pick so far.
Yeah. I mean, I do like what you said about Theo Benedet. I almost forgot about it once we talked about it. We talked about it on the top of the show, but towards the back end, I totally forgot. And that's a great pick. And if he holds Max Crosby to 1 sack or something, that's a win for him. And that would be an MVP in my book if he's holding him off. And I didn't really think about this, but Ben Johnson has been talking about, get to the bye week, we'll reevaluate things, make changes if we need to. If Theo Benedet has a good game, not that he would take Darnell Wright's spot, they might put him over in Braxton Jones' side of the ball. I mean, Braxton Jones didn't struggle last week or week 1, but week 2 he got absolutely dominated. And Max Crosby, we'll see it. He does move, but he plays a majority of those snaps on the left side of the D line, which is against our right tackle, which is Theo Benedet. But about 30% of the time, he does line up over on that other side, and Braxton Jones will get to show what he's got too. And I'll tell you what, if Theo Benedet's holding up his own and he goes over there and he starts having a havoc, I'm telling you right now, Theo Benedet, this is a good game for him to actually show what he can do in an actual NFL game, not in a preseason game, an NFL game against an elite pass rusher. And if he has a good game, I'm telling you right now, I will not be surprised they put him. They might make changes, especially too. It'll help the run game. It'll help everything. So if he's having a pretty good game, I would not be surprised, especially if Braxton has a bad game. I will not be surprised if that comes a considerable option, because it was an option all the way up until the season started. And I think they just went with Braxton Jones because he actually has that NFL experience. Theo Benedet doesn't have that yet because he hasn't got the opportunity. So this is a perfect game for him to prove himself and show his worth. And I'm excited for it because he was such a HBO Hard Knocks legend last year with the Bears, with that, like you're referencing, the Canadian Eagle and the Speedo for his karaoke. And last year he in the preseason game he tore his groin or something. He did the splits on a field goal block, out for the season, and now he's back here getting a start. It's a great story, and I'm going to be rooting for him. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than we think, just dealing with a lot of the injuries on the Bears side. If we were healthy, I would have the Bears winning this pretty comfortably, but it is going to be a pretty nail biter game, I think. And I hope Caleb's ready to go, and I believe in him to have another good week and continue to stack the success we've seen so far in that development. But that'll do it for this episode, unless you got anything else that you want to add in here.
No, I think we're good. I just like a kid waiting for Christmas. Want to open the package tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it'll be exciting. But that'll do it for this episode. As I said earlier in the episode, we will do a special episode next week titled The Ben Johnson Effect. We'll have that somewhere out in the middle of the week next week. Make sure you turn on the bell notifications so you know when that drops. Make sure to follow us on all our socials, which are in the YouTube description below. It'll take you to all of them. And make sure, if you're new here, like, comment, subscribe. If you've been here with us, make sure to hit that share button, share it to your social media, share it to your Bears fans out there. We're loving the support. It's been fun doing this, but we'll catch you on the post-game show, hopefully with a Bears victory to get us back to 500 before the bye week. But for now, Bear
Bear
down.